Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, July 12th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Tribulsi. From humble servant to hometown hero. Many tonight remembering the life of Father Joe, the priest who more than 30 years ago created a national model to tackle homelessness, has died. As KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman shows us, his legacy will not soon be forgotten.
I'm the director of St. Vincent de Paul Center. It's a program to help homelessness.
So much has happened over the past 30 years.
Father Joe Carroll, the namesake behind one of San Diego's largest homeless service providers, died over the weekend at age 80. At the Joan Kroc Center in downtown San Diego, people have been bringing flowers to honor him and remember his selfless attitude.
He's helped me out, he's fed me, give me a place to live, resources, and he's definitely going to be missed, He's an icon here in San Diego, and he's helped thousands and thousands of people.
Father Joe was a Catholic priest who more than 3 decades ago decided to devote his work to helping the homeless.
We talked about that, the term hustler priest and the fact that he was so well known for being able to gather funds for those in need. And he's mentioned to me time and time again that it was quite easy, and it was easy because he wasn't doing it for himself.
Father Joe's Village's CEO, Deacon Jim Vargas, was tearful when recounting one of his last conversations with Carroll, where he told him about a new housing development that's dedicated in part to his lifelong work.
His legacy does live on, and it will continue to live on in the work that we do each and every single day.
Father Joe's motto was simple: neighbors helping neighbors. KPBS spoke to him when he was named Mr. San Diego by the Rotary Club in 2012.
So my goal in 30 years has been, these are neighbors who have to be in trouble. When you have a neighbor who's sick, that's a neighbor. When you have a homeless person who's sick, that sounds fearful. So my goal has always been, we're neighbors helping neighbors. That's all they are, is our neighbors, and we're the neighbors to them, and we help them.
He created a national model that he called one-stop shopping, having shelter, job training, and health services all at a single location.
And my concept was, why don't we have it all on one site so people in need, neighbors who are struggling, don't have to go walking all over town.
Father Joe's health worsened over the years, and because of diabetes, he had to have both of his legs amputated and lost an eye. But that didn't slow him down, still rallying to raise money for the unsheltered and attending public events like his annual holiday dinner.
Everything at Father Joe's Villages begins with a meal. This means all these people, by getting food, might get into one of our rehab programs. So it's the beginning of a process that we hope to change their lives over the next year.
Details for a public memorial service will be released over the next few days. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
COVID-19 cases are rising in hotspots across the country, and most of these rising case numbers have been attributed to the now dominant Delta variant, which is twice as transmissible as previous strains. As Camila Bernal explains, almost all of U.S. COVID-19 deaths in June were among unvaccinated people.
Rising COVID-19 case numbers in U.S. hotspots as the Delta variant rapidly spreads.
Wherever vaccination rates are low and you have a high percentage of the virus isolates are the Delta variant, which is twice as transmissible as the original lineage, you're going to have lots and lots of COVID cases and lots of hospitalizations.
A third of new cases in the U.S. coming from these 5 states, according to a medical analyst.
To see a potential third wave is disheartening. And it's disappointing because, quite frankly, it's preventable.
More than 99% of U.S. COVID-19 deaths in June were among unvaccinated people, according to the CDC.
It's not vaccinated people who are being hospitalized today. It's unvaccinated people.
This as confusion remains over a booster shot. Pfizer virtually briefing U.S. government officials regarding the potential need for another dose. But the guidance from the CDC is that as of now, a third shot is not needed. What is needed is first-time vaccinations.
Our vaccines work incredibly well against all the variants, including the Delta variant.
According to the CDC, the daily pace of people becoming fully vaccinated has dropped 84% since the mid-April peak.
If you get vaccinated, you will be protected from dying.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
A new warning will soon be attached to Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says it may pose a, quote, small possible risk of a rare but potentially dangerous reaction. The CDC has received reports of 100 people who got the shot and developed an immune system disorder that can cause muscle weakness and occasionally paralysis. That's just a tiny fraction of the nearly 13 million Americans who got the one-dose vaccine. 100 days ago, National City's mayor set a goal to vaccinate 45,000 residents. Today, Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis announced nearly 36,000 residents had been fully immunized as a result of the campaign. While falling short of the 100-day goal, the city is still urging residents to get their shots. The mayor says it's no easy task, as National City was one of the hardest hit communities.
We have people that were hit with family members dying, with jobs lost, with potential housing crisis and eviction notices.
And to kick off the program, the city set up one of the first vaccination sites specifically targeting teens to make it easier for eligible students at Sweetwater High School to get their shots. Mayor Sotelo Solis says they will continue working to gain the trust of those that are still hesitant in getting the vaccine. And for more information about vaccinations and where to get one, visit our website, kpbs.org. We've made it easy to find with a vaccines link right there on our homepage. 1 year later, the Navy has still not revealed what caused the fire that destroyed the USS Bonhomme Richard. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh has an update on the investigation that is still ongoing.
Fire burned for 4 days, sending smoke billowing over the region. 21 people were treated for minor injuries. In November, the ship was declared a total loss, but the Navy hasn't released any final report. Robert Shaw, a former ATF arson investigator, says that's not unusual.
Because when you're conducting a criminal investigation, you want to gather as much information that you can and hold it and use it to make sure you're getting accurate information from other people. You don't want stuff to get widely circulated and then you get misinformation.
Last year, a high-ranking Navy source confirmed a media report that a sailor was being questioned in an arson investigation. Naval Criminal Investigative Services spokesman Jeff Houston confirmed Monday that a criminal investigation is still underway and that no charges have been filed. Shaw says,
I would say at this point, they know the cause. Again, it's not unusual to not release those findings publicly.
Shaw is a maritime fire investigator. He says cases involving fire are difficult to prove.
It's not uncommon for a determination of arson to be made and ultimately nobody gets arrested, because you still do have to get enough evidence that a particular person committed the crime.
The USS Bonhomme Richard was in San Diego in the final phases of being retrofitted to carry the F-35B fighter jet. A skeleton crew was on board when the fire started. The ship has since been sent for scrap. Aside from a criminal investigation, the Navy is completing at least 2 other reports into the cause of the fire. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
A recent survey highlights the inequalities Latina women face in San Diego workplaces. KPBS reporter Alexander Van Hel has more on the survey's key findings.
Maná San Diego says the pandemic highlighted that Latinas were the second largest group to leave the workforce due to workplace inequalities. Latinas make up 1/3 of all employed women in San Diego County. This is why Maná de San Diego, a national Latina organization, partnered with the Kim Center to launch the first ever survey of their experiences on the job. The results were clear, says Inés González Pérez Chica, Maná de San Diego's executive director.
San Diego employers need to improve their workplace environment, workplace policies, and employees' organizational support.
Consider that nearly 1/3 of respondents say their voices are less likely to be heard due to pandemic work style adjustments. More than 1/3 of respondents said discrimination impacts their creativity at work and loyalty to organization. 2/3 of respondents said they were unsuccessful when requesting a raise or promotion.
As a Latina, I have experienced firsthand some of the barriers we can face.
Vice Chair Nora Vargas says it's in the best interest of employers to elevate the status of Latinas.
The biggest challenges are the systemic and cultural barriers that impede progress and career advancement.
Mana San Diego says they're committed to working with any employers who are wishing to improve the workplace environment for Latina women. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
A new report highlights where our county's food system fails communities and workers while setting goals for the next 10 years. San Diego County Food Vision 2030 was released today by the San Diego Food System Alliance, a coalition of local businesses, health systems, nonprofits, and government agencies. Before the pandemic, 1 in 7 people in our region was experiencing food insecurity. Now it's 1 in 3 people. The report calls for addressing inequities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, mitigating the impacts of climate change on food producers, and investing in local farms, fisheries, and food businesses. A recent audit found big shortcomings in San Diego's efforts to fight climate change. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the City Council reviewed the audit today.
San Diego's 2015 Climate Action Plan was hailed as a model for cities across the country, but the city auditor found the plan's implementation has fallen short. City departments aren't tracking their progress toward transportation and conservation goals, and they aren't being held accountable for their lack of action. Advocates have been voicing similar criticism for years and say San Diego needs more staff dedicated to climate action.
The City of San Diego must show its commitment to implementing the Climate Action Plan by increasing funding for the Sustainability Department so that the city has the staff and the resources to actually make progress.
City council members largely agreed San Diego has not moved fast enough to lower greenhouse gas emissions or to prepare for the worst impacts of climate change.
All of this work requires people. Our sustainability team is amazing, but we want to make sure that they're adequately resourced so that they can continue doing the amazing work that they do. That's why I think the staffing analysis is so important, so that council can make the necessary budgetary decisions to meet our CAP goals.
City officials agreed to implement the audit's recommendations over the next year and a half. They're also preparing an update to the Climate Action Plan that will include even more sustainability goals that stretch decades into the future. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Another heat wave is blanketing California and Oregon, leaving firefighters to battle flames in extreme temperatures. The largest wildfire of the year in California is burning along the Nevada state line, charring about 140 square miles. In Oregon, the bootleg fire exploded to 240 square miles. With transmission lines from Oregon still unreliable because of the fire and continued high temperatures, California issued a statewide flex alert from 4 this afternoon through 9 o'clock tonight. As for when we might see some relief from the heat, meteorologist Jessica Pash has your forecast.
The peak heat definitely stayed with us this past weekend, but we're still talking about some extreme heat even today. Heat advisories, excessive heat warnings still remain in effect as our upper level high that's been responsible for the extreme heat slowly inches further west. Along with it, it's going to try to pull in some moisture late week. It's just a question of how far west that moisture is going to get. So I did mention those heat advisories and excessive heat warnings still in effect for places like Bragle Springs, Mount Laguna, Those last through late tonight and then will be allowed to expire after that. For tonight in the metro, temperatures dropping down into the upper 60s, so pretty mild night there. Increasing cloud cover, some low-hanging clouds and some fog possible through the early morning hours of your Tuesday. El Cajon getting down to 67 degrees, Ramona 61, Prego Springs not even falling out of the low 80s. And again, not much change here in the forecast for your Tuesday. This upper level high remains locked in. The heat stays with it. Here's the monsoonal moisture. It's going to ever so slowly creep west with each and every coming day. So Oceanside 76 degrees for your high on Tuesday afternoon. San Diego getting up to 76. Same thing down towards Chula Vista, Ramona 90s for you in Prego Springs. 109 on Wednesday. We get that moisture ever so close, just creeping right along that California-Arizona border. The heat certainly remains locked in for most of the interior sections here. Should find some coastal comfort, though, which is good news there. So again, near the coast, temperatures are generally going to stay in the mid to upper 70s with a little bit of low-hanging cloud cover possible there, especially through the early morning hours, basically just about every day. Further inland, temperatures generally sitting in the mid 80s, but towards the start of the next weekend, we could drop things back down into the low 80s. In the mountains, temperatures go from close to 80 degrees on Tuesday back down into the low to mid 70s. And in the desert, that's where the heat continues. Triple-digit heats, temperatures here basically every day. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
The first payments in the Biden administration's enhanced child tax credits are due to start rolling out this week. Heads of household will receive up to $3,600 for each child up to 6 years old and $3,000 for each 6 to 17 years old. Half of that credit can be claimed when filing income taxes for the year, the other half paid in monthly installments through the end of the year. Those payments can be up to $300 per month for kids under 6 and $250 a month for kids up to 17. The amount of the credit goes down for people earning over $112,000 and households making more than $150,000. President Biden met with the Attorney General, law enforcement, and elected leaders to discuss rising crime rates, including gun violence.
No one-size-fits-all approach. We know there are some things that work, and the first of those that work is stemming the flow of firearms used to commit violent crimes. It includes cracking down on holding rogue gun dealers accountable for violating the federal law.
The president's plan also provides federal resources to police departments and allows communities to use COVID relief funds for intervention and job training programs. Initiatives to fight the increase in gun violence are happening locally as well. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us how San Diego is doing its part.
San Diego has started taking steps to crack down on an increase in guns. On Sunday, the Sheriff's Department invited people to trade in guns for gift cards in Vista and got nearly 300 weapons. Sheriff's Lieutenant David Buther said event organizers didn't expect the high turnout.
And so we did run out of gift cards. I'm not sure when, but we had nearly 300 firearms that were surrendered during the time period, and so many people ended up with some IOUs.
The city of San Diego is working on its own initiatives to reduce gun violence.
Sometimes local government has a little more challenged in terms of being able to be an active participant in gun violence. It can be a challenging conversation that will happen over the long term.
Joe LaCava is just one of the San Diego City Council members working to be a part of the conversation on combating gun violence.
We here in San Diego want to be able to act quicker. And so, as Biden said, every level has to work to prevent gun violence in our communities.
Council member Marnie Von Wilper asked the San Diego Police Department for a report on so-called ghost guns, firearms that usually can't be traced. They found they were on track to nearly double the number of ghost guns seized. The data will be presented to the Council's Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee Wednesday morning and will help with prevention measures to follow. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
San Diego Pride is back in a big way. Yesterday, the LGBTQ community and allies marched in the first Pride parade since the pandemic. After spending months in isolation, organizers chose the theme of being resilient. One person at the march explained why these events matter so much to the LGBTQ community.
To show that we're not going away, that we do matter. I mean, we're fortunate here in California, you know, where we can go out and do this. There's some states that you still can't do that.
Organizers estimate that close to 15,000 people showed up for yesterday's event. More in-person and online Pride events are scheduled throughout this month. Billionaire Richard Branson has achieved something he's been working toward and talking about for many, many years. He finally made it into space, setting a record in the process. Rachel Crane was there when he returned to Earth.
A historic flight nearly 2 decades in the making. Billionaire Richard Branson becoming the first person to take a trip on a self-funded spacecraft.
Release, release, release.
The entire journey captured and broadcast on a live stream, all taking place in about an hour.
It's a complete experience for a lifetime.
Virgin Galactic ship rocketing more than 50 miles above Earth, high enough to even experience weightlessness.
To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
Branson and his crew safely returning to Earth, celebrating their mission accomplished.
Ladies and gentlemen, this here is Sir Richard Branson, astronaut.
I spoke to the 70-year-old after the successful landing.
But you've now been back on Earth for a couple of hours, so tell us, what was this experience like for you?
Look, I've dreamt of going to space since I was a kid. I've always pictured what it would be like. And it was just far more extraordinary than I could ever imagine.
Everything from the blackness contrast with the Earth is just deafening. It's incredible.
In the billionaire race to space, Branson beating his competitors, launching his first flight before Jeff Bezos on Blue Origin and Elon Musk via SpaceX. Bezos is sending his congratulations on social media, adding, "Can't wait to join the club." Branson offering this advice to the Amazon founder in return.
I hope he can have as wonderful a voyage as we had, and just do your training. You know, I mean, it's important to get that sort of 7 days of training before you go.
Virgin Galactic plans to launch at least one more test flight before allowing paying customers to fly. The price tag for a seat, up to $250,000. And while they wait, Branson says he's taking some time for himself to rest before planning any future feats.
Are you eager to go back up?
I would go back tomorrow if I didn't feel I was taking a seat away from the many hundreds of people who've already signed to go up and the many hundreds of people who will want to sign up.
And by the way, that waiting list is currently more than 600 people long for those who want to go but cannot afford the price. Virgin Galactic is giving away 2 free tickets in a contest. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is scheduled to take flight next week. 5 Padres are in Denver getting ready for tomorrow's AllStar Game, among them superstar shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr. And you don't have to be from San Diego to have Tatis be your favorite player. Just ask Bryson Quinney. He came from Wisconsin to watch Tatis and the team play. Quinney, who is a heart transplant recipient, made it a bucket list event, and he got more than that. Not only a picture with Tatis, but a special seats and a signed ball. The 14-year-old says he became a Padres fan while watching the team play while he was in the hospital. He says it gave him, quote, a sense of comfort. Over the weekend, Step Coos became the first American in a decade to win a stage at the 118-year-old Tour de France. While cycling is an old sport steeped in tradition, that doesn't mean it can't grow and change. KPBS video journalist Matt Bowler brings us a story about a new kind of bike race, and it's called Tracklocross. Here it is.
Chris Noble, Tracklocross World Tour. We'll pretend there's an organizing body. Go. Yee-hoo! Tracklocross is riding a cyclocross-inspired course, but on a track bike. Woo! Cyclocross is a type of riding where it's a short circuit course. They go super fast, they jump over barriers, there's dirt, there's grass, there's steps, all sorts of fun stuff. Track bike is a fixed gear bike, and we don't use brakes so that nobody crashes into each other. It's more challenging. It takes a pretty easy course and all of a sudden makes it super hard. You won't see $1,000 wheels out here. It's all about having a good time. I'm super excited to get back out riding with friends after a year and a half of not. We are going to do 2 podiums, so there's going to be a male/open category and then a second category for women, trans, femme, and gender non-conforming. We're gonna have a jump competition and a skid competition. Yee-hoo! So it's just gonna be a good time. There will be prizes for the winners, but there'll be prizes for the losers as well. Whoever gets dead last will get the prize.
Woo! A young gray fox is back in the wild after recovering from an injury. The fox was released Friday on Mount Soledad, not far from where she was found struggling to walk. The 12-week-old was hopping to get around because she had the injury. She spent 10 days at the San Diego Humane Society's Ramona Wildlife Center before she was then cleared to return to her natural habitat. We wish her luck. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. I hope you have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.